From the King of Wakanda to Spider-Man, here are some of the superheroes who created their own enemies, starting with King T'Challa in Black Panther.
I also wear the mantle of king. So I ask you, as both warrior and king.
Did you think we would forget? Look at me!
In case you didn't know, Namor and T'Challa have been allies, friends, and rivals in the comics for decades. Namor was given a small amount of the Phoenix Force's power. This gave him the ability to flood Wakanda with a huge tsunami that killed a lot of innocent people. Even though there were bigger problems to deal with at the time, King T'Challa swore that he'd get even with the person who killed millions of innocent men, women, and children by drowning them. So, before the second Secret Wars event, T'Challa stabbed Namor in the heart and put him on a dead planet where a big bomb went off. Namor, Thanos, and a few other Marvel bad guys all died when the bomb went off. This put an end to the blood feud between the two stubborn kings. Although, that still wasn't as strange as this next bad guy who emerged from the superhero in question. Yep, I'm talking about the Cyborg and Grid. Victor Stone, or Cyborg, was an important part of the Justice League's defense network. His processing systems can find any threat anywhere on the planet in seconds. Cyborg knew he could keep an eye on every hero on Earth, but he didn't want to invade people's privacy. That's why he set many of his secondary systems to collect data while he worked on more difficult tasks. Slowly, Cyborg's subsystems got bigger and became the Grid. That's when the Grid started to become conscious on its own. The hundreds of hacks and viruses that Cyborg had to deal with caused it to turn into a fully conscious being. The new being kept the name Grid and joined the Crime Syndicate, which is Earth 3's version of the Justice League. His only goal was to get emotions, which Cyborg had, but Grid didn't. Grid helped the Crime Syndicate take over the world by using all the information he had gathered about superheroes over the years. He also became the Syndicate's reverse cyborg, which lived on even after the Syndicate was defeated. Yikes. Now, this next superhero-villain dynamic proves that two people being taught the same thing can take very different paths in life. Doctor Strange and Baron Mordo. Stephen Strange learned a lot about magic and his place in the multiverse from the Ancient One. For those who don't know,
I see through you! Hypocrite!
he's an old, all-powerful wizard who taught him everything he knew. He basically learned how to use magic with the Ancient One's best student, Baron Karl Amadeus Mordo.
So what can I do for you, man?
I've been away for many months now, and I've had a revelation.
The true purpose of a sorcerer.
Who later became the Doctor's biggest rival. In the comics, Mordo planned to kill the Ancient One once he had learned everything he could. But Doctor Strange was able to stop his plan, which led to the Baron being sent away, and Strange became the famous Sorcerer Supreme. Baron Mordo went crazy because he hated Stephen Strange, and the two of them got into a magical rivalry that'll last forever. Speaking of, here's one that started all the way back in their college days: Mr. Wonderful and Doom. Reed Richards met his biggest rival and one of the most dangerous people in the Marvel Universe by accident while he was in college.
Please. I have children of my own. I understand your pain. The larger the footprint you leave behind, the greater the risk of an incursion, destroying one or both entirely.
They met a young student named Victor Von Doom, who was impulsive and full of crazy ideas that were also very good. However, Doom and Richards became rivals almost right away in college. When Doom made a device that he thought would let him send his soul through dimensions to reach hell, Reed tried to stop him. But because Doom hated Reed Richards so much, he didn't listen to his advice and turned on the device anyway. The device blew up right away, leaving permanent scars on Doom's face and getting him kicked out of school. Years later, Doom would would come back as the all-powerful and evil Doctor Doom as a threat to the multiverse. And the rest is, well, history. Besides, you know what they say about villain origin stories though. They can start from just one interaction, and that's what happened with Aquaman and the Black Manta. Sure, the King of the Seas shown over and over as one of the strongest Justice League members, but this doesn't mean that he's never made big mistakes while protecting the world's oceans. In fact, he actually made one mistake with a young boy named David, which led to the creation of the Black Manta. In one of Black Manta's origin stories, he was captured by cruel pirates and forced to work for them. Back then, Aquaman was swimming with a group of dolphins when young David saw them, who screamed for help. Unfortunately though, Aquaman didn't hear him. Yikes. Because of this, young David grew to hate Aquaman very much. He saw the ocean and Aquaman as emotionless and uncaring. Obviously, that led the young boy down a dark path. He ended up becoming the cruel man known as Black Manta all over the world, showing how the bad guys are sometimes born by accident, just like it did for this speedster duo, Wally West and Zoom. Many DC fans think that Wally West is the real Flash because he took over after Barry Allen died in the terrible Crisis on Infinite Earths event. Wally West was the Flash from 1986 to 2009, and many of his worst enemies were people he had made. One of them was called Zoom and was his own version of the Reverse Flash. Hunter Zolomon knew that Wally was the Flash. That's why he helped him out as a metahuman profiler for the Keystone City Police Department. This is how Zoom got his name. Gorilla Grodd attacked Iron Heights Penitentiary and paralyzed Zolomon below the waist. This ended Zolomon and Wally's friendship. Hunter Zolomon begged Wally to use Barry's Speed Force treadmill to go back in time and fix everything that had gone wrong in his life, which of course included Zolomon's paralysis. Wally said no because he wanted to keep the flow of time, so Zolomon used the treadmill himself. As a result, he was infused with the Speed Force when the treadmill exploded and was able to change some of the worst things that happened to him in the past. He also decided to change Wally's past to make him a better hero by giving him a darker past. In the end, Hunter Zolomon turned into the bad speedster Zoom, who caused Wally West and everyone close to him a lot of trouble. Just like with the Grid, everyone knows this next bad guy who emerged from the combo of a superhero suit and an unhappy life, Spider-Man and Venom. Even though Venom's origins have changed over time, the first appearance of the Venom symbiote was in the first Secret Wars event. At that time, Spider-Man's original suit was so damaged that he had to search through a number of devices that belonged to the Beyonder. That's an all-powerful being who started the Secret Wars event. But Peter found a device by accident that turned the red and blue suit into a black and white one. At first, Peter really liked his new suit. I know I did. But he soon realized that it was alive and trying to take over his body and mind. Peter was able to get out of the suit in the end by using the sound waves from a church bell. But just below the bells was a disgraced reporter named Eddie Brock. Spider-Man had completely ruined Eddie Brock's life, even though he hadn't meant to. Brock was then drawn to the Venom symbiote, and the two of them became close. This made them both hate Spider-Man, and as a result, they worked together to become one of his worst enemies. Ouch. With that, that's all for the superheroes who created their own enemies.